One winter I came back to my on-campus apartment shortly after a snowstorm. Fresh snow, about 1.5 feet deep, was covering every exposed part of the ground, including right up to the back door of the apartment. It was a townhouse-style place. The ground floor included a general living space, the kitchen, and a dining room with a large window. My roommate was out of town that week, so it was just me in the place, and I had a habit of making sure the back light was on at night, because we had people come up and knock at the back door before. When I walked over to flip on the light, I spotted a pair of very fresh footprints, just standing and facing the dining room window, and a greasy face print, like someone had been peering in. There were no prints coming or going, and they hadn't been filled in by the snow. I called and asked a friend to stay over that night, and never did find out who had been out there. It happened a couple more times over the winter too. My fiance and I were stalked by a serial killer, and I eventually caught him in the act. This was in the summer of 1969. In the San Francisco Bay Area. We had a reoccurring night visitor at the bedroom window of our ground floor apartment over the course of a couple months. Late one night, I was home alone and went to bed. It was very hot, so I opened the full-length window. Soon after, I heard footsteps on the grass coming up to the window. So I crept over and yanked the thin curtains back. There was a man standing there, not 2 feet away through the screen. I screamed at him. He just calmly stared at me. Eventually, he turned slowly and walked away. I was having none of it, so I ran out the door and chased him through the complex. He jumped on a motorcycle just as I got near him. I figured he was just some perverse lurker, but the fact that he had driven there multiple times bothered me. A few years later, I was reading about the Sacramento East Area rapist, now known as the Golden State Killer. There were artist renderings, and one of them was exactly the man I had seen. Suddenly, it all made sense. This was right at the time when he had started his rampage in the East Bay. I reached out to the investigators and ended up being interviewed by Michael McNamara, the author of the book I'll Be Gone in the Dark, and the monster is now in prison. Mirror doppelganger. I looked into the mirror and saw me standing behind me. At first, it was only a shimmer in the corner of my eye. I turned. The room was empty, but the reflection lingered. Same posture, same clothes, but not me. I blinked, it vanished. My heart started pounding. Now every time I pass that mirror, I feel someone or something watching me. It was an ordinary evening, a family getting ready for the night. The parents packing an overnight bag for their 5-year-old daughter, who was headed to her grandfather's house. Nothing was unusual. Mom was 2 weeks away from her due date with her second child, but she felt fine. No pain, no labor, no reason to worry. As the little girl walked out the front door, clutching her favorite stuffed animal, she turned back and said something strange. "I'm spending the night because Mommy's going to the hospital." The parents laughed it off. Kids say weird things all the time, right? Maybe she overheard them talking. Maybe it was nothing. But after they tucked themselves into bed that night, the house felt restless. The mom couldn't sleep. She tossed, she turned, she kept thinking about what her daughter had said. At 2 a.m., she woke up with a sharp pain in her stomach, heart beating. At first, she thought it was nothing, but the contractions came fast, faster than she had expected. Her husband scrambled for the car keys. By the time they reached the hospital, she was already in active labor. Hours later, the baby was born. When the family returned home, their daughter ran to greet them, her eyes wide with innocent certainty. "See," she said, "I told you Mommy was going to the hospital." How did she know? There were no signs, no warnings, just a child's quiet statement spoken hours before reality caught up. Some people believe children are closer to something we lose as adults, a sensitivity, an intuition, and sometimes that sensitivity is terrifying. It was late afternoon. The platform was crowded with commuters, all waiting for their train home. Among them stood a man, tired, restless, eager to just get the day over with. The electronic sign overhead flickered. The sound of an approaching train roared in the distance. That's when it happened. A stranger, a woman he'd never seen before, turned to him and whispered, "Don't board that train." Just like that. Calm, low, almost as if she wasn't speaking to him at all, but to herself. He froze. Why? Why him? The train screeched into the station. The crowd pushed forward, and yet he couldn't move. People streamed past him, stepping inside, taking seats. The doors chimed, the whistle blew, and the train pulled away. The man waited for the next one, shaking his head, telling himself he was being ridiculous. But the next morning, headlines filled the news. That exact train had derailed between stations. Several people were injured. One person was killed. He never saw that woman again, never even knew her name, but he remembers the way she said it. Not desperate, not panicked, just certain. Some might call it a coincidence, others intuition. But he swears there was something more, something unnatural. A warning meant only for him. Thank you for watching and listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share these stories with someone who thinks they sleep too easily at night.